Have you ever been in a conversation with someone special and felt like you're missing something important? Today, we're going to decode 5 common phrases that often carry deeper meaning than their surface-level words. This isn't about manipulation or games. It's about understanding emotional subtext and building stronger connections. Before we dive into specific phrases, let's understand why these communication gaps happen in the first place. We often focus on literal words, but communication is so much more than that. It's like reading a book but only looking at the words, missing all the rich story between the lines. The same phrase can mean completely different things depending on the situation, just like how "it's cold in here" might be a simple observation or a request to close the window. Emotions color every conversation we have, adding layers of meaning that aren't explicitly stated. Think of it as the background music in a movie. It tells you how to feel about the scene. Our upbringing and social norms shape how we communicate, creating unique patterns that can sometimes feel like different languages altogether. Let's explore why these 5 phrases are so common and what they really mean in different contexts. Communication isn't always straightforward, and that's actually perfectly normal. Just like how a single musical note can sound different in various songs, words carry different weights in different situations. Our emotions add layers to our words. Think of them as filters that color what we're trying to say. The same phrase can mean something completely different depending on timing, tone, and circumstances. There are actually valid reasons why we sometimes communicate indirectly. Sometimes we're trying to protect ourselves or others from immediate emotional reactions. Many of us learned early on to be polite rather than direct. It's deeply ingrained. Direct confrontation can feel risky, so we often choose softer approaches. Understanding these communication patterns can transform your relationships. When you understand the underlying messages, you can connect on a much deeper level. This knowledge helps you address root causes rather than surface-level issues. It creates an environment where both people feel heard and understood. The classic "I'm fine," probably the most famous phrase in the history of relationships. Let's look at what's really happening when someone says they're fine, and how to respond in a way that actually helps. When someone says they're fine, there's often an unspoken but hanging in the air. It's like when your phone says it's connected to Wi-Fi, but nothing's loading, technically okay, but something's clearly wrong. Sometimes "I'm fine" means I need time to sort through my feelings before I can express them clearly. It's like needing to organize your thoughts before giving a presentation. This phrase can be a subtle request for attention, not in a manipulative way, but in a "I wish you could see what I'm feeling without me having to explain it" way. Often it indicates previous attempts to communicate weren't received as hoped. Think of it like leaving voicemails that never got returned. Instead of just accepting "fine" at face value, try saying something like, "I'm here if you want to talk about what's really going on." It shows you care enough to look deeper. Sometimes the best response is simply, "I understand if you need some time. I'll be here when you're ready." It's like leaving the door open without pushing someone through it. Try reflecting what you observe. "I notice you seem upset. Your feelings matter to me." This validates their experience without forcing them to talk. Don't just walk away. Your presence, even in silence, can be comforting. It's like sitting with a friend through a storm. You don't need to fix the weather, just be there. Do what you want, those 4 words that never actually mean what they say. Let's break this down. Understanding this phrase can prevent a lot of future headaches and turn potential conflicts into opportunities for connection. When someone says "do what you want," it's often the verbal equivalent of a flashing red warning light. It's like when your GPS says "recalculating." You're definitely not on the right path. This phrase frequently surfaces when someone feels their input isn't being valued, like being asked to choose a restaurant but having every suggestion dismissed. It's essentially saying your actions have consequences, even if I'm not spelling them out right now. Think of it as the relationship equivalent of ignoring the check engine light. Hidden beneath these words is often the message, "I have thoughts on this that I feel aren't being considered." It's like being part of a team project, but feeling like your ideas are being overlooked. When you hear this phrase, treat it like a yellow light. Slow down and assess the situation. Take a moment to consider what led to this response. Try saying, "I actually really want to know what you think about this." Show that their opinion isn't just welcome, it's crucial to your decision-making process. Explain your thought process. "Here's why I was thinking of doing X, but I want to understand your perspective." It's like showing your work in math. The how matters as much as the what. Work towards a solution that considers both perspectives. Think of it as collaborative problem-solving rather than a win-lose situation. These 4 words can spike anyone's heart rate faster than a horror movie jump scare. But understanding their purpose can completely change how you handle them. Let's look at what's actually happening when someone says, "We need to talk," and how to turn this dreaded phrase into an opportunity for growth. This isn't just about any regular conversation. It's about something that's been on their mind for a while, like pressure building in a pressure cooker that needs release. First, take a deep breath. Your immediate reaction might be panic, but staying calm is like having a good internet connection, essential for good communication. When someone says this, they've likely spent time mentally preparing for this conversation. It's like gathering courage to jump into cold water. They've psyched themselves up for it. If timing isn't right, don't dismiss it. Instead, say something like, "This sounds important. Can we sit down properly at specific time to discuss it?" It shows you respect the conversation's importance. This phrase signals a need for your undivided attention. No phones, no TV, no distractions. Think of it as someone asking you to pause the background music of life to focus on the main melody. When the talk happens, listen like you're trying to solve a puzzle. Each piece of information matters. Avoid planning your response while they're still speaking. The key word here is resolution. They're not just looking to vent, but to work towards fixing something important. Approach it like a brainstorming session where both parties are working towards a solution, not a debate where someone has to win. The mysterious 5 minutes that somehow turns into 30. Let's understand what's really happening here. This isn't about being deliberately late. It's about the gap between optimism and reality and how to handle it gracefully. When someone says 5 minutes, they're often expressing their ideal scenario, like estimating a trip's duration without accounting for traffic. Mentally translate 5 minutes to 15 to 20 minutes. Think of it like setting your clock slightly ahead to avoid being late. This usually means they're in the middle of a process that feels nearly complete to them, similar to when you're almost finished with a video game level and don't want to stop. Sometimes a simple "need any help" can both speed things up and show support, like offering to navigate while someone's driving. There's often an underlying pressure to give the shortest acceptable time estimate, like when your friend asks if you're close when you've barely left home. Try saying, "Take the time you need." It's like giving someone breathing room to finish a task properly rather than rushing. The desire to present their best self can make the preparation process longer than anticipated. It's like trying to speed run a morning routine, but wanting everything perfect. If time is genuinely critical, be upfront. We need to leave by specific time to make our reservation. Clear deadlines help everyone plan better. When nothing's wrong actually means something is wrong, let's decode this classic communication puzzle. This phrase often appears when emotions are running high but words aren't quite ready to follow. Understanding this can transform potential conflicts into moments of connection. Sometimes nothing's wrong means, "I'm still sorting through how I feel about this." It's like trying to untangle headphones. You need time to work through the knots. This phrase can be a shield against potential conflict, like using an umbrella before it starts raining, protecting oneself from anticipated emotional storms. It might be a way of saying, "I wish you could notice what's bothering me without me having to spell it out." Think of it as hoping someone notices you've redecorated without having to point it out. Often, it's a subtle test of how well someone knows you, like leaving breadcrumbs to see if they'll follow the trail and show they care enough to dig deeper. Create an environment where sharing feelings feels safe, like setting up a comfortable space for a heart-to-heart conversation. Maybe say, "I'm here whenever you want to talk about it." Don't push for immediate answers. Sometimes understanding comes like waiting for a flower to bloom. It happens in its own time. Show up consistently with care and attention. It's like watering a plant regularly. The results might not be immediate, but they matter in the long run. Keep demonstrating that you notice and care about their feelings, even when they're not explicitly expressed. It's like maintaining eye contact in a conversation. It shows you're fully present. Now that we've decoded these common phrases, let's look at the bigger picture, the golden rules that can transform any conversation. Think of communication like music. The notes, words matter, but the melody, tone, tells the real story. Just like how "great job" can sound sincere or sarcastic, every phrase we've discussed today carries its meaning in how it's said, not just what's said. Creating a safe space for honest communication is like building a bridge. It takes time and effort, but once it's there, it makes everything easier. When people feel safe, they're more likely to say what they really mean instead of using these indirect phrases. Before jumping to solutions, show you understand the emotions involved. It's like being a doctor. You wouldn't prescribe medicine before understanding the symptoms. Simply saying, "I hear you," or "that must be frustrating," can work wonders. Develop your emotional radar. Just like checking the weather before going out, check the emotional temperature of a conversation. Are there signs of underlying stress, worry, or hesitation? This awareness helps you respond more effectively. Remember that context is everything. A phrase that means one thing during a casual dinner might mean something completely different during an important discussion. It's like how a raised hand means different things in class versus in traffic. As we wrap up today's video, I want to leave you with this crucial insight. While we've spent time decoding these common phrases, the real goal isn't to become a human translator. The true power lies in using this knowledge to build stronger, more authentic connections. When we understand these communication patterns, we're not just solving puzzles, we're building bridges between hearts and minds. It's about creating relationships where people feel safe enough to say what they really mean, and heard enough to want to keep sharing. That's when the magic really happens.